Hi everybody, Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining me today. This is what I'm making today. These Rainfall cards are pretty popular at the moment, and I've seen a couple of different ways of making them. This is the way that I worked out to do them. It may be better than some other ways, it may not be as good. Take a look and see what you think. I've stamped out the 4 little birds on a branch onto a piece of Whisper White. I've used Memento Tuxedo Black. I've got a whole load of colours here, Stampin' Blends, and I'm just going to colour in my little birdies. So I'm going to start with the little beaks, and this is Dark Mango Melody. And this is probably going to take me some time, so I'm going to give you some music to listen to while I carry on. So this is Light Soft Suede, and this is Dark Soft Suede. A Light Flirty Flamingo, and Light Mint Macarons. I'm going to start with Light Petal Pink. And what have I here? Dark Prum Pink. Start with Dark Pool Party. And Light Pool Party. Got a piece of scrap card here. It's actually a great deal longer than I need it to be, but that doesn't matter. So I'm going to start by lining it up at the 1/2 inch mark on my scoring and folding board, and I'm going to score all the way along at 1/2 inch. Now the Stampin' Up trimmer is retired, but there are similar trimmers out there on the market, and if you don't have one, then you can just measure and use a stylus. And now I'm going to cut the card at 1 inch. It is much easier to score first and then cut when you're dealing with a piece of paper or card that's only 1 inch wide. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my ruler and a pen, and I'm going to mark at 1 inch along that line. Okay, now I've already done this once and forgot to turn the camera on, so I'm only going to do a few just to show you. So when I've gone all the way to the end of my piece of card, I'm going to bring in a piercing tool, and I am just going to pierce on that fold where I've made those 1 centimetre apart marks. Okay, and then if I fold it over, I I now have a nice piece of card with nice handy holes all the way along the centrefold. I've cut myself a piece of Whisper White, and I'm going to do some ink blending, starting with some Petal Pink, and I'm going to add a few drops of glycerine to my colours, just sponging that over my Whisper White card. Next colour I'm going to use is Seaside Spray, just pressing the ink pad down onto my craft mat, and again a couple of drops of glycerine, because it helps the ink to move smoothly over the card and to blend. And I'm going to come in now with Balmy Blue. So give it a drop of glycerine, and as you can see, the sponges I use are my favourite kitchen sponges, which I got for 30p for 3 from the supermarket. They're just the basics kind, the the cheap and cheerful, and just a very light dusting of the. And now I think actually that this is Purple Posy, although I believe in the supplies list I said Highland Heather. Either would do. Purple Posy, if anything, isn't such an intense colour. So I'm just going back in with some of the colours that I've already used, just to intensify the depth of colour. And now I've got some mint macaron, and again spot of glycerine, and it is there on the craft mat. You can barely see it, but it is there. And I'm just finishing around the edges, and that is pretty much where I want it to be. I've cut out a frame from Pool Party using the stitched rectangles dies, and I used the largest one and not the next size down, but the one after that, to give myself a frame that's about a ½ inch on all sides. And I've just lined it up with my card front. Now I've covered the whole of the front of the card with my background piece, and my card is 4 inches by 11 inches, and I've scored and folded it at 5½. Okay, I usually make them a little bit longer, so I'm just lining that up with the front of the card where I want it to go. And I've already made some pencil marks around the corners. I want the corners to be, and I'm just going to make light pencil marks along the borders here, just keeping that where I want it to be. Okay, so I can see those pencil marks. You probably can't. I'm going to run some foam tape between those two marks, keeping them within the borders at all times. And the same thing here. I'm just keeping it just inside the pencil marks, and the top is slightly narrower than the bottom. I don't know whether you've heard that, but Miss Misty is sitting next to me and supervising. Okay. So here's my card with the holes pierced in it, and tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut it to the length of the card there. Okay, so that it is centered. And the open edge is towards the top. and then I can trim it down. Okay. Now I've got to try and match the one from the opposite side. Okay. So I'm probably making this unnecessarily difficult, because I would probably have been better off if I'd made the card the same size as this, and then I could have just stuck the two pieces together much more easily. But hey ho, it is what it is. Okay, so I have my two pieces of card, and now I want some double-sided adhesive tape. Excuse me 1 second while I go and get some. There we go, I have some tear and tape. I'm going to run a piece of tear and tape along there, and another one along here. Okay, right, so that's all my preparation work for the beading done. So next thing is I'm going to take a length of invisible thread, which pretty much does what it says on the tin. I don't think you can see that at all. You're just going to have to trust me. I'm not holding up a needle with nothing on it. I've cut a fair length, but I'm not trying to do the whole thing in one go. And let me just bring this back in so I can see where I want to start, and that is going to be on that hole there. So I'm just going to pull my needle through. Okay, and let's pull this back a little bit and bring my needle through. And I'm sorry if it's a bit noisy in the background. It's a warm day today and the window is open. And also Miss Misty is sitting just off camera, supervising, making sure that I do everything correctly. There we go. I'm going to stick that down. And I'm going to begin picking up some beads. Now these are just some seed beads that I had in my stash. They came like that. I don't know where I got them from. I think it might have been on a magazine or something like that. Or somebody may have given them to me. I don't know. Oops. Now the aeroplanes are flying over. So let's see how many I need. Okay, so how many is that? So 2, 4, 6. I've got 7 beads on there. So let's see how that looks. And that's quite nice. 8, 9, 10. Come here. Okay. So I've loaded up so I've threaded 10 beads onto my invisible thread, and I'm going to go over the top, through the hole, making sure I haven't lost my thread, and I'm going to come back again. Through the next hole, and I thread on another 10 beads, and then I'm going to work my way across the front of the card. My beads are all strung, and now I am just checking that they move nice and freely, which they do. I've got some sticking out tails of thread here, where I had to stop and start new ends of thread, so I'm just trimming those away. Oops, I have a message. And I'm just taking the backing off the double-sided tape and just pressing this down to seal everything nice and neatly. Come on, off you come. Don't want to play. Making sure that the beads run smoothly. Okay, so onto the frame, I've got one layer of foam tape at the top and the bottom, and along the sides I have 2 layers, because that's going to compensate for the one layer that's already on the card. I'm taking off the backing from the foam tape. And now I'm lining things up carefully. I'm going to line the top up first because I've got a little bit less wiggle room there, because the top is very, very slightly smaller. Here are the little birds that I coloured earlier on, and as you can see I've kind of fussy cut them out, but I've left a nice border all the way around. So I'm just going to attach those to the front of the card with a little bit of liquid adhesive, and I'm making sure that I'm keeping it towards the bottom part of the die. I don't of the birds, because I don't really want them fouling, you know, catching the beads behind them. So just check that that still works, and I check this at every stage, just to make sure that the beads still flow freely. Right, and I may need to come in with a little bit of embossing buddy, or maybe some corn flour or talcum powder or something like that, just to make sure that there's no adhesive tape sticking up. So yeah, now I think it needs a sentiment, so we'll work on that next. Taking the sentiment, "Your friendship means the world to me," from that same stamp set. And I've got a scrap of pool party card left over from another project. As you can see, I've die cut out a label from it, and I've got my pretty label punch, and I'm just kind of centering that into the punch and punch that out. And I've got some scraps of Whisper White, and I'm going to cut 2 of the pretty label shapes. I'm going to put the top back on the memento ink before I put my thumb in it. Okay, so I'm going to arrange these kind of like that, so they're kind of like clouds, yeah? And I'm trying to decide whether to just edge these just with a little bit of the light pool party ink, and I think I will. Just makes them stand up a little bit more. And yeah, try and keep my inky thumbs off the nice Whisper White. Yeah, just very, very, very rough and ready. Not going to worry too much about the inky thumbs. And I did go back to my birds while they were still movable. I did go back and move them Let's move that over there slightly. I did go back and pop some dimensionals underneath them because I wanted to make sure that they weren't going to catch on the oh, that was in the wrong place. I maybe need a mini dimensional there. 1 second. I think I've got some minis in my bag. Perhaps I haven't. Maybe I'll come back. So maybe that one can sit at the back there. And this one can pop along here like that. And again, dimensions in the wrong place, so it's a good job that they're quite forgiving. It's a good job they're actually very forgiving. Little spot liquid adhesive to hold these together. Because the idea is that they are rain clouds, and then a little liquid adhesive around about there. And yeah, just going to set that on one side for the adhesive to dry, and then I'm going to call that finished. And there it is, that is the finished card. I did go back with my light pool party blend marker just to give the clouds up here some shape, to make them look a bit more like clouds and a bit less like just lumps of white. And just checking that the rainfall still works. So that is it for today. Thank you very, very much for joining me and for staying with me to the very end of this video. When you come back and see me again sometime soon, I would really love to see you. But for now, thanks for joining me. Bye bye.